Hey guys, some time ago I started making these videos about the lore of Warcraft in Bulgarian, and because of all the positive feedback and reactions it received, I decided to also make English versions of some of these videos. This video is about the story of Deathwing, so sit back and as Deckard Cain says,
Stay a while and listen.
Deathwing, formerly known as Neltharion, is a mighty black dragon that was chosen by the Titan Khaz'goroth to be one of the 5 dragon aspects. The aspects are the leaders of the 5 dragonflights, and Neltharion was chosen to be the aspect of the black dragonflight. He was granted dominion over the earth and the deep places of the world. Neltharion was chosen as the caretaker of the continents of Azeroth and used his power to forge mountains and rivers for the benefits of the mortal races. In peaceful times he was renowned for his wisdom and power and became known as Neltharion the Earth Warder, the great protector of the land. But in time he was driven mad by the voices of the old gods. The old gods are mysterious and incredibly evil beings with godly powers that ruled with tyranny over the universe, until they were defeated and banished by the Titans. Since then they have been whispering to the subconsciousness of mortal and eternal beings alike, subverting their thoughts and feelings and sometimes driving them completely insane. Even the mighty and wise Neltharion couldn't withstand the whispers of the old gods and eventually lost all of his sanity. The inner voices of the old gods convinced him that he could have powers beyond his imagination if he served them. In time he became paranoid and suspicious of everyone. Neltharion began to yearn for a world dominated by his black dragonflight, in which the other dragonflights ceased to exist and the aspects Ysera and Alexstrasza will be his petty slaves for mating. The old gods convinced Neltharion to create an artifact of unimaginable power, known as the Dragon Soul, that would later be used by Sargeras, the leader of the Burning Legion, to set them free, or so they hoped. With the help of the goblins, Neltharion created a simple golden disc made of his blood and forged deep beneath the earth. The disc was empowered by Neltharion's magic and magically shielded, so that the other dragon aspects could not see what was hiding inside of it. There was an evil within the disc, some taint of the old gods, though what exactly it is not known. When the Burning Legion invaded Azeroth during the War of the Ancients, Neltharion saw an opportunity to finally complete the Dragon Soul. Guided by the voices of the old gods, he first captured demons of the Burning Legion and added their powers to the Dragon Soul. Neltharion then convinced Malygos to help him convince the other dragon aspects. All of them soon agreed to give a portion of their powers to the Dragon Soul and sold it out the dragons of their dragonflights. Neltharion proposed that they should use the Dragon Soul as a weapon against the demons of the Burning Legion, but unknown to the rest, he was the only one who did not give up his powers to the Dragon Soul. Neltharion the dragon aspects and their dragonflies flew towards Zinashari, the ancient capital of the Night Elves, where they held the demons at bay. He grabbed the Dragon Soul and by channeling his destructive power through it, destroyed thousands of demons with one swing. But along with the demons, he also killed hundreds of Night Elves and other allies, as the dragon aspects watched in horror. Finally, Neltharion revealed the depths of his betrayal. Now, with the disc at his command, he wanted all of the races and the demons to see his power and bow to him. Then the other dragon aspects attacked Neltharion in an attempt to take the Dragon Soul from him. The blue dragonflies surrounded Neltharion, but with the swing of the Dragon Soul, most of the blue dragons perished. After that, he turned against all of the other dragons and destroyed many of them, and the ones that survived scattered far across the land. Neltharion's betrayal struck a great blow to the aspects, and their fear of being destroyed like the blue dragonflight kept them in seclusion. In desperation, the aspects shielded themselves and hid to become undetected even by each other. The growing corruption in Neltharion's heart began to warp his body, making him look more and more demonic. His skin began to crack open and magma and fire flowed off his chest. His eyes became a flaming red, demonstrating the magnitude of his power and the depth of his evil. Thus was Deathwing the Destroyer born, and the Dragon Soul was renamed to the Demon Soul. His proximity to the Demon Soul was ripping his body apart, so the Goblin Smiths forged an adamantium armor to protect him. The old gods had manipulated Deathwing into creating the Demon Soul, but their true intention was that the demons would inform their lord Sargeras of the great power of the weapon used against them. Sargeras would no doubt want the Demon Soul to power the gateway that would let him into Azeroth. By using the Demon Soul to amplify the gateway, the old gods hoped to escape their prison beneath the planet. However, the druid Malfurion Stormrage used the Emerald Dream to find Deathwing's lair and stole the Demon Soul from him, but was later captured by Illidan and Varuten, the leader of Queen Azshara's personal guard, who took the Demon Soul to Manarod the Destructor, the general of the Legion's armies. It was then used to power up the portal that would allow Sargeras to enter Azeroth. But the Burning Legion was defeated, and the Dragon Aspect sealed the Demon Soul with their energies, so that Deathwing should never be able to use the Demon Soul. After that, the artifact was hidden in an undisclosed location by Malfurion at the request of the Dragon Aspects. No longer in possession of the artifact and now unable to use it, Deathwing vowed to destroy most lives and wreak havoc on the planet. Neltharion caused volcanoes to rise and sank most of Kalimdor below the ocean. At that moment, Neltharion ceased to exist, taking up a new name and a bitter purpose. He became Deathwing, and his subjects were placed beneath the iron rule of a tyrant. He vowed to cause suffering wherever he could. He himself chose Deathwing as his title, to better show his contempt and intentions for the lesser creatures around him. 10,000 years later, during the Second War, Deathwing discovered the Demon Soul's location. Although he couldn't wield its power because of the enchantment placed upon it by the Dragon Aspects, he realized that he could manipulate someone else to do it. Eventually, he found the perfect pawn, Zuluhet, the chieftain of the Dragon Maw clan. Zuluhet found the Demon Soul and gave it to the warlock Necros Skullcrusher, who used it to capture and enslave the Dragon Aspect Alexstrasza and her consorts in order to breed dragons for the Horde. Deathwing manipulated Necros to make the Dragon Maw clan orcs follow his bidding. When Ner'zhul, the war chief of Draenor, reopened the portal to Azeroth, his forces were approached by Deathwing, who offered them assistance in several key battles against the Alliance, in exchange for safe passage to Draenor. Deathwing believed the world would be a relatively safe haven for his offspring and secreted away a cache of Black Dragon eggs there, but his lair was discovered and attacked by the Alliance expedition, who destroyed several of his eggs. Deathwing was temporarily defeated, but survived. When he escaped back to Azeroth, Deathwing ended up in a fight with the mages of Dalaran and feigned defeat, falling into the sea where most of the council assumed at the time that he died. He was not dead, however, and he took a human guise pretending to be a heroic noble named Lord Prestor. Deathwing, posing as Lord Prestor, managed to make himself popular with King Terenas and the kings of the Alliance nations. Using subtle magic, he was able to ensnare the minds of the human leaders and force them to grant him the title of King of Alterac. His ultimate goal was to obtain a high level of power and influence within the Alliance, so he could destroy it from within. Deathwing began his campaign against the Alliance by pitting the Alliance kingdoms against the Kirin Tor of Dalaran, who Deathwing considered threats to his new identity. However, the Kirin Tor were able to discern that he was a powerful being hiding in a human form, and tried to devise a way to stop him. The orcs of the Dragon Maw clan at Grim Batol kept their hold over Alexstrasza, even though the bulk of the Horde had already been defeated. Deathwing tried to frighten the Dragon Maw orcs into believing that the humans were attacking Grim Batol, so that they would move Alexstrasza and her ex north to Dunal Gask, where they would be vulnerable. Deathwing hoped to steal Alexstrasza's latest cache for himself in order to raise the newborn drakes as his own, so that they would serve him. Deathwing manipulated the mage Ronin, who had been sent to Grim Batol by Krasus as a part of a plan to free Alexstrasza. He saved the young mage several times and helped him reach Grim Batol, hoping that his appearance inside the mountain fortress would further convince Necros to flee from it. The orcs were convinced and began leaving Grim Batol, but Deathwing's attack on the caravan failed. Necros turned against Deathwing and tried to use the Demon Soul on him, but was unsuccessful due to the disc having no power over the Black Dragon. He then sent the old and sick dragon Tyrannastras to slow Deathwing down while they escaped. At that moment, the three remaining dragon aspects finally decided that the time is right to intervene, and attacked Deathwing. However, due to the power they had given to the Demon Soul, they were no match for the Black Leviathan. Fortunately for them, the mage Ronin was able to steal the Demon Soul from Necrus and freed Alexstrasza in the process. Soon he discovered how to destroy it, releasing all the powers of the dragons who had given their power 10,000 years earlier. Deathwing, now facing 4 fully empowered dragon aspects, realized he cannot defeat them and fled, remaining hidden until the events in Cataclysm. In Cataclysm, we learned that Deathwing was hiding in the heart of Deepholm, recovering from the wounds of his last battle against the forces of Azeroth.
Agony. My hatred burns through the cavernous deeps.
As he bided his time until he could reforge a world in molten fire, he was discovered by the Twilight's Hammer, who forged him a new armor of Elementium plate that would hold his tormented body together. In recent years, the whisperings of the Old Gods have gotten worse. The Old Ones' dread power steadily increased as Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron stirred from their ancient slumbers, and the growing influence of the Old Gods has magnified Deathwing's power tenfold. Finally, Deathwing awoke from his slumber and literally erupted into the world. The explosion he caused was so powerful that it caused earthquakes, volcanic eruptions and floods, reshaping the very face of the world.
But at last, the whole of Azeroth will break.
This event was known as the Shattering. That was the story of Deathwing. You can find out what happens next by playing Cataclysm, where we will face Deathwing himself in the final raid of the expansion, the Dragon Soul.